When Naya discovered her husband's affair with his secretary, he didn't apologize. Instead, he had the gall to propose an open marriage, absolutely certain she could never do better than him. He dared her to go out and see for herself just how unforgiving the world could be. He was catastrophically wrong. That very evening, she hired Seattle's most exclusive male escort just to feel wanted again. Hello, my wonderful Pride family. I'm so glad you're back for another powerful story. Your incredible support is the reason I do this, and I promise to keep bringing you stories that matter as I learn and create more each day. And for anyone who's new to the channel today, I would love it if you'd say hello in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Be sure to click that subscribe button so you can officially join our Pride family. Now let's dive into this. Nia felt herself ascending the glass tower, watching the glowing floor numbers climb past 41, 42, 43. The lunch bag she carried was still warm, the aroma of the fresh pasta she'd made wafting from within. She'd risen before dawn just to prepare it, recalling Bryce's complaint about having wall-to-wall meetings all day. It was a small act, a reminder that he was loved. A soft chime announced her arrival on the 47th floor. The investment firm was a monument to cold minimalism, a maze of glass partitions and steel fixtures that felt sterile and imposing. She gave a polite smile to the receptionist, a young woman who offered only a fleeting glance from her computer screen. "I'm just bringing my husband his lunch," Nia explained gently. The receptionist gave a disinterested wave, dismissing her. Nia's heels clicked a lonely rhythm on the polished concrete as she made her way down the hall. Bryce's office was the prime corner suite, the one boasting a breathtaking view of Elliott Bay. She'd been there so many times, especially in the beginning, when he'd joyfully pull her into his lap during his breaks, whispering that she was his lucky charm. Her hand went to the door handle, fully expecting to find it locked, but it yielded effortlessly. The image that confronted her was seared into her memory with the force of a branding iron. Bryce had his secretary, a blonde woman Nia had met just once, backed up against his sprawling desk. The woman's skirt was hiked high around her waist. His hand was viciously tangled in her hair. The kiss they shared was not one of stolen passion, but of raw, practiced hunger. The lunch bag slipped from Nia's numb grasp and landed silently on the plush carpet. Bryce broke away from the kiss with an infuriating lack of haste, as if he had all the time in the world. He looked over at Nia, and in his eyes she saw not shock, not guilt, but a flicker of pure annoyance. The secretary frantically adjusted her clothing, stammering apologies, as she fled past Nia and out of the room. "Nia," Bryce stated calmly, straightening his tie, "you really should have called." She couldn't form a single word. Her throat had seized completely. She could only stare, waiting for the frantic backpedaling, the desperate excuses, the pleas for forgiveness. They never came. "Close the door," he ordered. "Let's not cause a scene." She obeyed out of sheer reflex, her body moving on its own. Her hands were trembling violently. "How long?" was all she could manage to whisper. Bryce heaved a swim, circling his desk to settle into his opulent leather chair. He steepled his fingers, assuming a posture as if he were about to deliver a grim quarterly report. "Does that really matter?" Her voice cracked and shattered. "Does it matter?" "Look, I'm sorry you had to see that," he said, his tone infuriatingly level, almost condescending. "But let's be adults here, Nia. Things between us have been lifeless for months. You felt it. I felt it." "No, I don't know that. I've been trying. I get up at 5 a.m. to make you breakfast. You smother me," he interrupted, his voice like ace. "You are always there, hovering. It's suffocating." The words struck her like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, her shoulders finding the unyielding wood of the door. "I gave up my entire career for you," she whispered. "I was an assistant curator at the SAM. I had a life ahead of me. You told me we were building our future together. And we did build one, but people changed, Nia. I require something else now. I require excitement. I need a woman who doesn't see me as the solution to all her problems." "I have never," Bryce stood, then slowly closing the distance between them. He came to a halt just inches away, his expression morphing into a look of pity that was somehow 1,000 times more cruel. "I honestly don't want to cause you pain. I don't. You're a wonderful, beautiful person, but this marriage, it is no longer working. So your answer is to cheat on me? I am offering a compromise." He slid his hands into his trouser pockets, rocking back on his expensive shoes. "An open marriage." Nia blinked, the words not computing. "What? We stay legally married. You keep the condo, the expense accounts this entire life. But we are both permitted to see other people. No more sneaking, no more deception. You're asking me to sanction you sleeping with other women, and you'd be free to see other men." He cleared his throat, saying it as though he were bestowing upon her a great act of charity. "If you'd like, that is, if you can even find anyone." The disdain in his voice was a tangible poison she could almost taste. "If you can find someone." The words echoed, confirming he had already written her off as worthless and undesirable to any other man. "You really think I can't?" she asked, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet register. Bryce simply shrugged. "I think you'll try to prove me wrong for a week, maybe two. You'll quickly discover how brutal it is out there, and then you'll come back home and admit that my arrangement is the most logical path forward." Model, Naya, your 22-year-old fantasy is over. Do you honestly believe the world is holding its breath for another jobless, penniless woman pushing 30? She just looked at him, the man she'd called her husband for 3 years, the one for whom she had upended her entire existence. It was like looking at a stranger. Or worse, perhaps she was seeing the real him for the very first time. His voice was deceptively gentle. "You should leave my office now. Go home. Once you've had time to process this, you'll realize it's the only way." Nia didn't argue. She moved like a phantom, past the receptionist, floated into the elevator, drifted through the lobby, and emerged into the cold Seattle mist. There were no tears. She was incapable of them. A thick, insulating layer of shock had settled over her, smothering every feeling. The memory of where she'd left her car was completely gone, so she boarded a bus and let it carry her home. She stepped into the silent apartment, a chic two-bedroom place in Capitol Hill, financed entirely by Bryce's salary. In the bathroom, she faced her own reflection. The woman in the mirror stared back here, dark complexion, luminous even in the unforgiving glare of the vanity lights. She saw the high cheekbones, the full lips and the crown of natural hair, a feature she had fought for years to embrace, now swept back in a simple low bun. Objectively, she knew she was beautiful. Strangers confirmed it constantly. Yet Bryce had just looked through her as if she were made of glass. His challenge echoed in her head, a bitter poison seeping into her thoughts. If you can even find someone, he was certain she'd flounder. He was counting on her to come crawling back, desperate for any meager crumb of affection he might deign to offer. A searing heat erupted in her core, sharp and violent. This wasn't grief. It was pure and adulterated rage. In a single fluid motion, she grabbed her phone and flipped open her laptop, her fingers a blur over the keyboard. Her search was specific, the most elite companion services in Seattle. She bypassed the sordid sites with their grainy pictures, seeking the agencies that demanded referrals, that served a clientele of billionaires and executives, people who paid for absolute discretion and flawless execution. And then she found it. The site was a study in minimalism. Black and gold, no faces, only a submission field. Her fingers flew. "I require your absolute best," she wrote. "Price is not an object. I need a man who will make me forget I even have a name." She clicked send before the doubt could poison her resolve. Less than 20 minutes later, a response appeared. It was stark, a single sentence and a phone number. "Call this line. Request Jason." She dialed. On the second ring, a low, polished voice answered. "Jason." Her own voice was a little shaky. I just sent a request through your site." "Of course. I have your submission right here. Naya, isn't it?" "Yes." "And you require a companion for this evening." A tremor ran through her hands. "That's right. Could you elaborate on the kind of experience you're seeking? It helps us guarantee the perfect pairing." She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to distill the raw ache and embody her into a single request. "I need someone who can make me feel," she hunted for the right word, "seen, like I'm not invisible. No one just going through the motions," she insisted, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "I need intensity." The line went silent for a moment. When Jason finally spoke, there was a new warmth in his voice. "I understand completely. I believe I have the perfect man. He is unparalleled, but he is also extremely particular about his engagements. Whatever his fee, I can cover it. With him, it's rarely a matter of money. He has to be intrigued by the request itself." "Then send him my picture," she insisted, swallowing hard. "And tell him this is a necessity. You'll have my answer in 1 hour." The connection ended. Nia remained perched on the edge of her bed, her gaze fixed on nothing. 60 minutes stretched before her like an abyss. She moved with purpose, showering, shaving, anointing her entire body with scented lotion. From the depths of her closet, she retrieved the dress, a column of black silk purchased for an anniversary that had been canceled. It flowed over her body like liquid night, its neckline a breathtaking plunge. Precisely 1 hour later, her phone chimed. It was Jason. He has agreed to the meeting. The Four Seasons Hotel, Goldfinch Tavern, 8 o'clock this evening. He will approach you. What should I call him? He'll provide a name if he feels you should have one. And just like that, the line was dead. Naya reached the Four Seasons at 7:45, her anxiety overriding any notion of being fashionably late. The Goldfinch Tavern was a world of hushed tones bathed in low light and paneled with dark polished wood, a sanctuary where powerful men negotiated empires over glasses of whiskey. She claimed a seat at the bar, ordering a wine she had no intention of drinking, fighting the desperate urge to watch the entrance every 5 seconds. Then at exactly 8 o'clock, the entire atmosphere of the room shifted. It was a palpable change, a charge in the air she felt deep in her bones even before she laid eyes on him. A current of energy swept through the space, followed by a quiet collective gasp from nearly every woman there. When she turned, her own heart seized in her chest. He was towering well over 6 feet with dark, perfectly tousled hair, in a jaw so sharp it looked like it could slice diamonds. The charcoal suit he wore was so impeccably tailored it could only be bespoke, and he walked with the profound, unshakable confidence of a man who had never once in his life been denied. His gaze swept the room with unnerving precision before it settled and locked onto hers. There was no hint of a smile. He crossed the room with a direct, predatory grace and took the empty stool beside her. Naya, he stated, his voice a low rumble that was in no way a question. Yes. Her reply was firmer than she felt. Julian. He offered his hand, and when she placed hers in it, the contact was electric. His grip was solid, warm, and lingered for a fraction of a second too long, sending a jolt through her. May I get you a drink? She managed, struggling to recall the proper etiquette for this situation. No. He inclined his head slightly, his eyes boring into her with an intensity that sent a flush of heat crawling across her skin. But you could enlighten me on why a woman who looks like you is sitting in a hotel bar on a Wednesday night trying to hire a complete stranger. She visibly stiffened. Maybe I have a fondness for hotels. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Perhaps, but I'm betting against it. The bartender materialized, and without breaking eye contact with her, Julian requested a whiskey neat. When the drink came, he raised it to his lips, his gaze still locked on hers. You're furious, he observed. I beg your pardon. You're wearing a dress built to make men weak, and yet you're radiating hostility. That muscle in your jaw is working overtime, and you haven't taken a single sip of your wine. This isn't about being alone. You're here because you're incandescent with rage. She could only gape at him. You know nothing about me. I know that you're married. He gestured subtly toward her left hand. Her eyes followed, catching the brilliant flash of her diamond. It hadn't even crossed her mind to remove the rings. And I also know, Julian went on, his voice dropping to a low murmur, that the man you're married to is a complete fool. It felt like a fissure had just cracked open in her chest. She turned her head, blinking furiously against a sudden burn in her eyes. Hey! His hand settled over hers on the polished wood, a gentle yet anchoring weight. You don't owe me an explanation, but if this is going to happen, I have to be sure you're actually here for yourself, and not just to make a point to someone who isn't even here to see it. She met his gaze again, studying the sharp angles of his face and the surprising warmth in his pale, burning eyes. He was cheating, she confessed, her voice barely audible. I walked in on him with his secretary this afternoon. When I confronted him, he didn't apologize. He said I bored him. He suggested an open marriage. Her voice trembled, and then he dared me. He dared me to find someone else. Julian's face hardened, his fingers tightening protectively over her own. He's certain I can't, she added. He's counting on me to fail to come crawling back, grateful for whatever scraps he's willing to offer. Then he's more than a fool, Julian declared. He's blind. The absolute conviction in his tone stole her breath. I need to prove him wrong, she whispered. Good. Julian withdrew his hand from hers and downed the remainder of his whiskey in a single fluid motion. He rose, buttoned his jacket, and offered her his hand once more. Shall we go where? Upstairs, or would you prefer to sit here, nursing that wine you have no intention of drinking? Her gaze fell to his outstretched hand, strong and unwavering. This was the precipice, the moment she couldn't take back. She placed her hand in his. The ascent in the elevator was shrouded in silence. He never released his grip on her hand. Every one of her senses was on high alert. The warmth of his skin against hers, the scent of cedarwood, and something wilder clinging to him. The stark intimacy of the confined space where her own racing pulse was a drumbeat in her ears. The suite he escorted her to was on the 20th floor. It struck her as peculiar when he produced a keycard from his own pocket to open the door. She had figured they would arrange for the room together, but that thought dissolved the instant she crossed the threshold. A panoramic wall of glass offered a stunning view of the cityscape with the Space Needle glowing like a beacon in the night. The suite itself was the definition of opulence, a symphony of cream and gold dominated by a bed large enough for 4 people. She turned to crack a joke, anything to break the charged silence, only to find Julian standing right there much closer than she'd realized. "Feeling nervous?" he asked softly. "A little good." He raised a hand tracing the line of her jaw with a single finger tilting her chin upward. "Because I have no intention of treating you the way he did. How will you treat me? Like you are the only thing that matters in the entire world." And then he kissed her. It wasn't hesitant or exploratory, it was an utter conquest. His mouth claimed hers with a raw confidence that liquefied her bones, one hand weaving into her hair to support her head as the other splayed across the small of her back, molding her body tight against his. A gasp escaped her lips, which he took as an invitation to deepen the kiss, his tongue sweeping against hers and igniting a wave of fire that coursed through her veins. When he finally broke away, she was breathless. "Bedroom," he murmured, his lips brushing against hers. She could only nod, her ability to form words having completely vanished. He guided her backward, his touch a constant, searing presence on her skin until her legs met the edge of the mattress. As she sat looking up at him, he took a deliberate step back. "Take off the dress for me," he commanded. Slowly, he added, his voice a low growl. She fumbled for the zipper at her side. The sound of it lowering was an indictment in the silent room as she let the silk glide from her shoulders. It pulled around her hips. Beneath it, she wore a matching set of black lace she'd chosen days ago for a different reason entirely. Julian's eyes devoured her, a raw, unapologetic hunger in his gaze. "Incredible." He breathed, his voice thick with desire. He was magnificent. He shed his jacket, dropping it carelessly on a chair before undoing his cufflinks with a slow, focused precision. She watched, utterly captivated, as he rolled his sleeves up to expose powerful forearms. "Lie down," he instructed. She complied. The bed was a cloud beneath her, the linens cool against her feverish skin. Julian loomed over her, planting one hand on the mattress beside her head. He kissed her again with less urgency this time, but with an intensity that left her dizzy. His other hand began a slow, deliberate exploration, tracing a path from her collarbone down the valley between her breasts over the plane of her stomach and coming to a halt just shy of her lace panties. "If you want me to stop, all you have to do is say the word," he whispered against her mouth. "I'm not going to change my mind." A genuine smile finally broke across his features, completely transforming his face. "A dangerous game you're playing. Beautiful." His fingers traced a path lower, and she melted into his touch, a breathless sound parting her lips. He silenced it with another kiss, his hands moving with an artistry that stole her reason. She couldn't remember, or perhaps had never experienced a feeling quite like this, the way he cataloged her every reaction, each gasp and shiver, and altered his touch in response. "Look at me," he murmured, and when her eyes fluttered open, his gaze captured hers. "I want to see all of you." The vulnerability in that statement was staggering. It felt like being truly seen for the first time in an eternity, if ever. His eyes drank her in as if she were a priceless work of art, as if every flicker of emotion on her face was a story he needed to know. When she unraveled beneath his touch, his name a raw cry torn from her throat, he kissed her through the storm, murmuring reassurances against her lips that were lost in the roar of her own pulse. "So beautiful," he breathed. "That's it. I have you." She was still trembling as he moved away, rising to shed the last of his clothes. Through a haze of pleasure, she watched him, her eyes tracing the clean lines of muscle, the powerful breadth of his shoulders. He was without question a masterpiece of a man. Returning to the bed, he settled between her legs, and then he paused. "Are you certain?" he asked, his voice low. "Yes," she rushed to say. "Please." He brushed a kiss across her forehead, her cheekbone, and the corner of her lips. "We have the entire night, sweetheart. There's no need to rush a moment of this." He entered her with a deliberate, reverent slowness, giving her time to accept him, and the overwhelming feeling of being completely filled made her gasp. A deep groan rumbled in his chest as his forehead came to rest on her shoulder. "God, you're perfect." He began a slow, tentative rhythm, and she instinctively wrapped her legs around his waist, drawing him impossibly closer. The cadence they found was flawless, unhurried yet deeply intense, and he never once broke eye contact. "You feel absolutely incredible," he said, his voice tight with restraint. "Do you know that utterly incredible?" Words failed her. All she could do was cling to him as he systematically took her apart. When she felt the impossible cresting pressure build again so soon her nails bit into the hard muscle of his back. "Julian the First, I know, let it go for me," he urged, his voice a velvet command. She shattered into 1,000 pieces, and he followed a heartbeat later, his body clenching, as he buried his face in the curve of her neck, breathing her name like a prayer. They lay tangled in the aftermath, her head resting on his chest, while his hand drew lazy circles on her back. Beyond the window, the city lights sparkled like fallen stars. She felt wonderfully boneless, utterly weightless. "Why did you do this?" she whispered, and his hand paused its motion. "Do what?" "Agree to this," he clarified. "I know you're selective." "I am." "Okay, so what convinced you I was worth your time?" A long, loaded silence stretched between them. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I saw your photograph, and I thought, this is a woman who has no idea how extraordinary she is. Someone convinced her that she was ordinary. A lie." He paused. "And I wanted to be the one to remind you of the truth." Her throat grew tight. "You don't even know me." "Not yet," he countered, gently tipping her chin so their eyes would meet. "But I would very much like to." She was at a complete loss for words. This was meant to be the simple, clean transaction, a single night to prove something to herself. But the intensity in his gaze told her he didn't see this as a transaction at all. "Tell me something," he said. "Like what?" "Anything. Your favorite painting. The last time you laughed so hard it brought you to tears. What you wanted to be when you were 10 years old." The question surprised a blink from her. "An astronaut." A slow smile spread across his face. "Yeah, I can see that. I suppose I thought space was the only thing vast enough to contain everything I wanted to do," she admitted with a soft laugh. "Then I discovered art, and I learned you could find whole universes inside a single frame." "What's your favorite?" "A Rothko, orange and yellow. It's the one that looks like an exploding sunset." "I know the one. I've stood in front of it." His hand resumed its gentle caress along her spine. "It's at the MoMA, isn't it? You've been there more than once." It wasn't a question. She studied the face of this man, this perfect stranger who had just given her the most profound physical experience of her life, and was now dissecting modern art as if this were a third date. "Why do you do this?" she asked abruptly. "The whole Escort thing." His expression shuddered instantly, a careful mask sliding into place. "It's a complicated situation." "That isn't a real answer." "No," he conceded. "It's not." He shifted gently, moving her from his chest, and the sudden absence of his warmth was a physical ache. As he reached for his pants, she clutched the sheet to her body, a wave of self-consciousness washing over her. "I should go." She glanced around for her dress. "Stay," he said, turning back to face her. "Please, I can't afford—" "I don't want your money, Naya." She frowned in confusion. "Stay because you want to," he said, his voice earnest. "Not because of some imagined debt." He sat on the edge of the mattress, again his hand finding hers beneath the sheet. "I don't do this often. In fact, it's been a very long time since I've done this at all." He shook his head slightly. "But there was something about you. I'm just not ready for tonight to be over." A dangerous, treacherous feeling fluttered in her chest, something that felt terrifyingly close to hope. "Okay," she whispered. They had room service delivered at midnight. Gourmet burgers and French fries, which they ate sitting on the bed as he coaxed stories from her about her art history degree, about the museum job she had cherished and then lost, about her secret sanctuaries in the city. She talked more freely than she had in months, feeling the words tumble out of her effortless and true. He kept his own stories close, skillfully sidestepping her questions with a joke or by turning them right back around, but she gathered the small details anyway. He took his coffee black. A faint scar curved over his left shoulder, a relic from a sailing mishap when he was just 16. He was a firm believer that the ocean held more magic than the mountains, a point she'd debate with a smile until he'd silence her with a kiss. In the hushed hours just before morning, they came together again, this time with a slow, tender sweetness that unfolded in the pre-dawn gloom. Afterwards, she slept soundly in his embrace, filled with a contentment that felt both profound and utterly forbidden. When she finally opened her eyes, the room was flooded with sunlight. The bed was empty beside her, and a cold spear of panic shot through her chest before the sound of a running shower registered. She pulled the sheet up to her chin, sitting bolt upright as the beautiful illusion shattered. This wasn't her reality. This was a single stolen night. A magnificent, flawless night, but one that was already becoming a memory. The bathroom door swung open and Julian appeared already dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark trousers that clung to him in all the right ways. His hair was still damp and he looked so impossibly handsome it almost hurt. "Morning." He greeted her, a warm smile spreading across his face when he saw she was up. "I took the liberty of ordering coffee. It should be on its way." "You didn't need to do that." "But I wanted to." He moved to the edge of the bed, his warm hand gently cradling her jaw. "How are you?" "I'm not sure," she confessed. "Last night was perfect," he said, finishing her thought. "It was." He leaned in, giving her a deep, lingering kiss that she sank into completely. As he drew back, his thumb traced the line of her cheek. "I meant every word I said last night," he whispered. "I want to see you again, Julian." "I can't." "Is this about the money?" "Let it go. That has nothing to do with this." "Then what is this about?" He held her gaze for a long, searching moment, his eyes filled with a raw, unguarded honesty. "It's about the fact that from the second I laid eyes on you, you've occupied my every thought. It's about the fact that just talking with you is more exhilarating than anything I've experienced in years. It's about—" He paused, a wry smile touching his lips. "It's about me deciding to be completely selfish because I have no intention of letting you just walk out of my life." Her heart skipped a beat. "You have a real talent for this." "For what?" "For making a woman feel like she's the only person in the world." "I'm not trying to make you feel anything," he replied, his voice soft. "I'm just telling you the truth." A sharp knock on the door broke the spell between them. Julian went to answer it, returning a moment later with a tray bearing 2 steaming cups of coffee and an assortment of fresh pastries. He placed it on the mattress. "Breakfast is served," he declared. A comfortable quiet settled over them as they ate, and Nad desperately tried to burn every detail of the moment into her mind. The way the morning sun ignited gold in his hair, the gentle curve of his lips as he smiled, the sheer improbability that a man like him, a man who could have any woman he desired, was here sharing croissants with her. But eventually the fantasy had to end. It was time to return to her apartment, to Bryce, to the smoldering ruins of her actual life. She dressed with deliberate slowness, intensely aware of Julian's eyes on her from across the room. Dressed and ready purse in hand, she found herself hesitating by the door. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper, "for last night, for all of it." He closed the distance between them in 3 long strides, pinning her gently against the door with his body, his hands framing her head. "Do something for me," he commanded, his voice a low, gravelly hum. "What?" He dipped his head, his lips brushing against her ear. A startled, happy laugh escaped her, and he pulled back with a grin, his eyes dancing. "I'm deadly serious. I want you to walk in there absolutely radiant. Make sure he gets a good long look at everything he's losing." And with that, he kissed her, a fierce, possessive kiss that left her breathless. "You're going to call me," he stated, "because what's happening between us is nowhere near finished." He slipped a business card into her palm. She glanced down at the heavy, expensive cardstock. All it held was a name and a phone number embossed in gold. Julian. No last name. No title. "I'll call," she promised. "See that you do." He pulled the door open for her, and she stepped into the hallway, every nerve in her body still tingling from his touch. She risked a single glance over her shoulder and saw him leaning in the doorway, his intense gaze following her, making her stomach do a slow, delicious flip. She floated to the elevator, rode it down to the lobby, and walked out into the crisp Seattle air. The entire world felt transformed, sharper, brighter, brimming with promise. She took the bus back to her apartment, and when she entered, she found Bryce standing in the kitchen, a pot of coffee brewing. He glanced up, his face a carefully constructed mask of neutrality. "Where have you been?" he demanded. She placed her purse on the counter, her gaze meeting his with a newfound steel she hadn't known she possessed. "Out," she answered plainly, his jaw clenched. "All night." "Yes, all night. You said you wanted an open marriage, Bryce. I was merely exploring the terms of your generous offer." He just stared, speechless. He'd clearly been expecting a fight or tears, not this unnerving, quiet confidence. "You're bluffing." She gave him a slow smile. It was the same one Julian had given her hours ago. The kind of smile that held 1,000 secrets. "Am I? Who was it? He sputtered, then tried to cover with a forced laugh. Oh, come on, you didn't really. Oh, but darling, I absolutely did, she purred, leaning against the counter. And it was enlightening. He reminded me what it feels like to be truly wanted. The look of utter devastation that washed over Bryce's face was worth every bit of her past heartache. So yes, she added, consider this marriage officially open. You really should have suggested it years ago. I might have found him so much sooner. A faint knowing laugh escaped her as she swept past him the bedroom door, clicking shut with an air of finality. Her phone was already gripped in her hand. Julian's name glowed on the screen. Her thumb paused, hovering just over the call icon. Not yet. Her thoughts were a chaotic storm. She had to make sense of what just transpired to understand its true weight. But soon, oh, very soon, she simply saved the new contact as Julian and placed the phone on the nightstand. Through the wood of the door, she could hear the heavy, angry stomps of Bryce pacing in the kitchen, his frustration echoing off the hardwood floors. And she realized with a startling clarity that she didn't care. For the first time in 3 agonizing years, his fury was just noise. She had been reminded of what it felt like to be truly wanted, a sensation she had no intention of ever giving up again. Nia finally called Julian 3 days later. She'd promised herself she would wait, that she would exhibit some self-control, but her own fingers staged a mutiny dialing his number as she sat swallowed by the apartment's silence. Bryce was supposedly working late again. Julian answered before the first ring could even finish. I was starting to think you'd forgotten all about me. Julian's voice purred through the phone, a smile practically woven into the sound. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she admitted. Really, he teased. I need to see you again. A beat of silence hung between them. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped to a husky whisper. When tell me you mean tonight, just tell me where. This time they met at a different hotel, a chic boutique hideaway in Belltown, defined by exposed brick and the warm, intimate glow of Edison bulbs. He was waiting for her in the lobby, dressed in simple jeans and a black sweater that somehow made him look both younger and more dangerous. Hi, she breathed out suddenly, feeling bashful. Hi yourself. He closed the remaining space between them in a single step, kissing her cheek as his hand came to rest on the small of her back. You look beautiful. She glanced down at her outfit. I'm literally in leggings and a sweater. I know, he murmured, and I stand by it. A room was waiting for them upstairs, but they didn't head there right away. Instead, he guided her to a wine bar 2 blocks down the street, a cozy little spot she'd passed 1,000 times but never dared to enter. He secured a corner booth and ordered a bottle of something French and undoubtedly expensive. Tell me about your week, he prompted. Unspeakably boring. Tell me about yours, equally boring. Liar. She smirked, taking a sip of wine. You don't have boring days. You'd be surprised. He leaned back, his eyes studying her intently. So how is the husband? Is confused and angry. He won't stop asking where I'm going, and your answer, I give him nothing. I just smile and walk away. A dark satisfaction flickered in Julian's eyes. Good, that's good. He's been different, trying harder almost, as if he suddenly remembered I exist, but only because he can smell another man's attention on me. Julian's jaw clenched. Men. Naya laughed, a real genuine sound. And what are you then, she teased. All right, I know I'm one of them, but that doesn't mean I can't call them on their crap. I'm a man, yes, but I would never make you feel like that. Besides, you women have a habit of blaming all of us when one guy screws up. But the second he acts like a gentleman, it's suddenly, my man, my man, my man. By then, Nia was nearly crying with laughter. Who in the world are you, she gasped out between breaths. I'm the man who wants to see you this happy always. You are breathtaking, Nia, and I hope the man who made you forget that knows what a crime he committed. Julian's words hung in the air as she stared at him. I'm leaving him. I just need to figure out how. It's his apartment. I don't have a job. You will figure it out, he said, covering her hand with his. And in the meantime, you've got me. Julian, about that, I have to know what this costs. I can't let you stop. His grip on her hand tightened. I told you, this isn't about your money. Nia, he said, waiting until her eyes met his. I am here because I choose to be, not because I'm being paid. Can you accept that? She wanted to. My God, how she wanted to. But it felt like a dream, the idea that someone like him could want her for nothing more than who she was. Why, she whispered, his brow furrowed. Why what? Why are you doing this? He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb gently tracing circles on the back of her hand. You want the real truth? Of course. Because when I am with you, I don't have to perform. I can just be. He shook his head, a sad, knowing smile playing on his lips. Everybody wants something from me. There's always an agenda. But you didn't even want me to know your last name. You just wanted someone to finally see you. And I did. I do. Her throat felt tight. I see you too. Do you? There was a raw vulnerability in his question, a fracture in his confident exterior that made her realize she might not be the only one who had felt invisible for far too long. Yes, she said with conviction. I see a man who pretends everything is casual, but who drinks wine with the focus of a scholar. I see someone who talks about art with the soul of a person who has lived in museums, not just visited them. Someone who, she trailed off, someone who makes me feel seen. He brought her hand to his mouth and kissed her knuckles, his intense gaze never leaving her face. You matter more than you know. They finished the bottle and walked back to the hotel, his arm wrapped tightly around her shoulders, her body molded perfectly to his side. The second the elevator doors slid shut, he pulled her into a kiss that was achingly soft and sweet, as if they had all the time in the world. The room was cozier and more intimate than the sprawling suite at the Four Seasons. He sat on the bed's edge and drew her to stand between his legs, his hands coming to rest on her hips. I have a question for you. All right, he said. Let's say there were no limits. None at all. What's the one thing you'd do? She blinked, caught off guard. He chuckled. Not just in bed, I mean in life. Oh. The question hung in the air as she considered it. I'd put together an art exhibition. Something daring. Something that would hit people with emotions they never saw coming. She trailed off, a blush rising on her cheeks. Don't look at me like that. Never make yourself small, he murmured. I would call it Invisible Women. It would be a collection of works from female artists. History tried to forget the ones who were ignored or completely written out. I had it all mapped out once before I let it go. Yeah. His grip on her hips became firmer. You're going to do it one day, I'm sure of it. How can you possibly know that? Because I do. He shifted, pulling her onto his lap to face him. Because you're exceptional, Nia. And people like you don't stay in the shadows for long. With a feeling swelling in her chest so big she couldn't name it, she leaned in and kissed him. It was the only answer she had. His response was instant, his hands finding their way under her sweater, his warm palms flat against her bare skin. God, I love the noises you make. He breathed, his lips brushing against hers. Do you have any idea the little hitches in your breath when I touch you? Right here. His hand cupped her breast. And the way my name sounds when it escapes your lips, right before you come apart. Julian, like that, she whispered. He smirked against her mouth, close but with more desperation. A cocky but truthful remark. A laugh escaped her, and in one fluid motion he reversed their positions, pressing her gently into the mattress. He hovered above her, the playfulness vanishing from his face, replaced by an intense gravity. There's something I need to tell you, he said, his voice low. Her heart skipped a beat. What is it? What we do, it's not just a physical thing for me anymore. I know that's the arrangement, and I know it's what you paid for, but it's not what this is, not now, and maybe it never was. Then what is it? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. He swallowed hard. I don't have the words for it yet. His hand came up to frame her jaw. But I desperately want to figure it out, if you'll let me. Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to build her walls back up, to remind herself this was a fantasy with an expiration date, because in reality, men who looked like him never chose women like her. But the sincerity in his gaze and the tenderness in his touch disarmed her. And God, she was just so exhausted from constantly guarding her heart. Yes, she exhaled. The way he kissed her then was different, as if she'd just handed him a fragile, priceless gift. And perhaps she had. From that night on, their meetings became more frequent, 2, sometimes 3 times a week. He introduced her to a world she'd only dreamed of. Michelin star restaurants, exclusive gallery openings. Even the ballet, which he confessed was completely lost on him, but said he'd rather watch her experience it anyway. You just illuminate, he told her, later in the back of the town car he'd arranged for the night. Whenever you're looking at something beautiful, it's like your entire expression transforms. Buoyed by the champagne and the memory of his hand laced with hers throughout the performance, she countered, the same could be said about you. What are you talking about? A stillness came over him. Your mask, it slips whenever you talk about something you're truly passionate about. That polished, cool facade you wear for the world. It cracks just for a moment, and I get a glimpse of what's underneath. She paused, searching for the right word. Fire, that's it. It's like there's this inferno raging just beneath the surface, and you're fighting to keep it under control. You're far too perceptive, he said, his voice quiet but not angry. Is that a problem? No. With a gentle tug, he pulled her across the seat and into his embrace. It's terrifying, he admitted, but it's not a bad thing. Then one evening, 3 weeks into their new understanding, he took her home with him. The thought of asking where he lived had never crossed her mind. She just figured hotels were part of the deal. So when their car glided to a stop in front of a sleek downtown Seattle high-rise, her surprise was genuine. I just assumed, she began, but he cut her off gently. I want you here, in my space. I want to see you in my bed in the morning light. I want to make you coffee and show you the city from my balcony. Can we do that? Yes. His apartment was on the 42nd floor, a breathtaking expanse of glass and minimalist design. The furniture was clearly expensive, yet it radiated a comfortable lived-in warmth. Books spilled from every surface, and the walls were adorned with actual art, not cheap reproductions. Is that a Rothko? She whispered, her feet freezing in front of a small, intense canvas in the hall. A study maybe, not one of the big ones, but still. Julian, this is worth a fortune. He came up behind her, his arms circling her waist. I have an appreciation for beautiful things. Can you blame me? She relaxed into his embrace, her eyes fixed on the painting's layers of orange and red that pulsed with an inner light. It's absolutely perfect, she murmured. He gave her a personal tour of the apartment, guiding her toward the pieces he knew would resonate with her. There was a delicate Noguchi sculpture, a haunting photograph by Diane Arbus, and a canvas by a contemporary painter she'd never seen before, whose work was so visceral, it literally stopped her in her tracks. You have a true passion for art, don't you? She observed. I have a passion for how it makes me feel, he corrected. Like there's something more to this world than, he trailed off. Then what? Then the endless hustle, the weight of expectations, the constant act. She turned her gaze, locking with his. What act do you put on? He faltered, and for a split second she witnessed a silent battle raging behind his eyes. He was on the verge of telling her something real. His mouth opened, then snapped shut. Julian, whatever it is, he dragged a hand through his hair in frustration. There's a side to my life you know nothing about. A cold dread pooled in her stomach. You're married, aren't you? God, no, nothing like that. Then what is it? I need you to understand, he said, his voice strained, that the person I am with you, that's the most pure version of me that exists. And that's terrifying, she finished for him, because I barely know you at all. No, he corrected softly, it's terrifying because you already know me better than anyone else. And you still don't even know my last name, she murmured, her fingertips tracing the line of his jaw. So tell me. I will, he said, his voice low. Soon. He captured her hand, pressing a warm kiss to her knuckles. I don't want to spoil this. You won't. You can't know that for sure. A genuine tremor of fear laced his words. It was a mystery to her, but the chill of it was unmistakable. Okay, she whispered gently, whenever you're ready. The tension visibly drained from his posture. He pulled her into his arms and just held her, a long, silent embrace that felt more like seeking refuge than passion. Thank you, he breathed into the silk of her hair. That night, tangled in his sheets with the city's electric glow, painting stripes across their bodies, he made love to her with an almost savage desperation, as if he were trying to commit every inch of her to memory, terrified she might vanish with the dawn. Look at me, he commanded, a low growl in his chest as he moved within her with slow, deliberate thrusts that were pure, sweet agony. I need to see your eyes. When she met his gaze, the raw intimacy of the connection was a physical blow, stealing the very air from her lungs. God, you're so beautiful like this, he rasped, his voice thick with emotion. So open and trusting and mine. He claimed her mouth in a deep, possessive kiss. Even if it's only for this moment, even if this is all we get. Right now, you're mine, Naya. A fierce, triumphant blaze ignited in his eyes. His rhythm shattered into something urgent and wild, his control fracturing, as he felt that exquisite tension coiling tight in her core. That's it, sweetheart. Let go for me. Her world splintered as she cried out his name, a sound he swallowed with his own groan, following her into the abyss as his release tore through him. In the aftermath, he refused to break their connection. He stayed inside her, their bodies cooling together while his hand gently brushed the damp strands of hair from her forehead. Stay, he whispered against her skin. Don't go home tonight. Please stay with me. I should go. The word please hung in the air. She had never, ever heard him beg. That single word was her undoing. Okay. He sighed in relief, rolling onto his back and pulling her with him until she was draped across his chest. The steady, powerful beat of his heart thrummed against her ear. Tell me a secret, he murmured into the shadows of the room. Something you've never told another soul. Why? Because I want all of you. Not just the polished parts you feel are safe enough to show the world. I'm terrified, she confessed after a long silence, that I gave up all my dreams for absolutely nothing. That I'll wake up at 50 and realize my life never even started. That I allowed fear to shrink me into someone I don't even recognize. His arms tightened around her like a shield. You are not small, and it is not too late. How can you possibly know that? Because you're right here. Because you found the courage to even begin to walk away from someone who made you feel like you were worthless. That takes a kind of strength you don't even see in yourself, Naya. I haven't really walked away yet. Not officially, but you will, when you're ready. What if I'm never ready? You will be, he promised, pressing a soft kiss to the crown of her head. And when you are, I'll be right here. She tilted her head back to meet his gaze in the dim light and cleared her throat. Your turn. Tell me something you've never told anyone. A storm of emotion flickered across his face before it settled into a stoic mask. I'm lonely. I am constantly surrounded by people, and yet He paused, searching for the right word. I've been profoundly lonely for years. Until you. Her heart felt like it had cracked wide open. Julian, it's way too soon to say things like that. I know this was supposed to be casual, I get it, but I just need you to know that you... His voice dropped to a nearly inaudible whisper. You make me feel alive again. Words failed her, so she kissed him, pouring all the emotion she couldn't possibly articulate into that one desperate touch. He met her passion with his own, and they came together once more, but this time it was different, slower, tender and achingly sweet exploration that spoke of something far deeper than lust. In the morning, he made her pancakes from scratch and a cup of truly terrible coffee, which she drank every last drop of simply because he looked so incredibly proud of himself. They sat on his balcony overlooking the waking city, and she entertained the dangerous thought that this was something she could get used to. The sharp ring of her phone shattered the perfect peace. The screen read Bryce. Reality came crashing back in an instant. I have to go, she said, the words tasting like ash. The light in Julian's eyes went out. I hate that you have to go back to him. It's complicated. It doesn't have to be, Nia. Just leave him. He took both of her hands in his grip earnest. I know it's not that simple, that there are logistics involved. But just go. You can stay here while you sort everything out. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering, he insisted, his grip tightening. I want you here. With me. I want to wake up with you every morning. He stopped as if wrestling with the words. I want more than these stolen nights and borrowed rooms. I want something real. This doesn't feel real to you. It feels like the only real thing in my life, she whispered, but it's also built on. He released her hands and began to pace the balcony like a caged tiger. There are things I need to tell you. Okay. Not yet, but soon. He cleared his throat. There's just something. I need to... He turned back to face her, his expression resolute. I have to do something first. Make something right. And after I do, I'll tell you absolutely everything, I promise you. She had no idea what he was talking about, but she nodded anyway. Okay. He insisted on driving her, and as she sank into the leather seat of a car that was far too expensive for any Escort, even a high-end one, things began to click. The suspicion that he wasn't who he said he was started to feel more like a certainty. The museum-quality art, the sprawling apartment, the effortless confidence with which he moved through the world, it all pointed to a different truth, but she didn't ask. She was terrified of the answer. When he pulled up a block from her building, just as she'd requested, he cradled her face in his hands and gave her a long, thorough kiss. 4 days, he said, his lips brushing against hers. I can't go longer than 4 days without seeing you. 3, she confirmed. A grin spread across his face. So we have a deal. He was gone in a flash of taillights, and as she headed back to her apartment, her phone began vibrating relentlessly. It was Bryce, his fury already spilling into a stream of text messages. The following fortnight was a dizzying blur of intoxicating joy and profound bewilderment for Nia. Over the course of 5 more meetings, the same pattern emerged. An unspoken confession would rise to the surface, hovering in the air between them, only for Julian to pull back at the last second, letting the chance slip away. It wasn't long before she began picking up on the subtle clues. In restaurants, the staff's behavior toward him was more than just professional politeness. It was a deep, almost reverential respect. Then there was the afternoon. A man in a perfectly tailored suit intercepted them on the sidewalk, shaking Julian's hand with genuine gratitude and thanking him for a recent investment. And the phone calls? He'd always excuse himself, his voice dropping to a near whisper as he discussed mergers, acquisitions, and other jargon that belonged in a boardroom, not the life of an escort. This whole escort thing, it's not real, is it? The question slipped out one night, her words soft in the aftermath of their lovemaking. He froze beside her in the darkness. Why would you ask that? It's everything, she confessed. Your apartment, the way people defer to you. You've never even brought up payment. None of it adds up. I don't know if it matters, but does it? He turned toward her, then resting his weight on an elbow, his eyes searching hers in the dim light. And what if I was something else entirely? A different man, she whispered back. Different how? What if the life you think I lead isn't my life at all? What if I'm someone who... He trailed off the words catching in his throat. Someone who began this whole thing on a lie he finally managed, but ended up falling for you for real. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Julian, what are you trying to tell me? I'm saying that... The shrill ring of his phone sliced through the confession. He cursed under his breath, snatching it from the nightstand. One look at the screen and his entire demeanor changed. I have to get this. Forgive me. He was already on the balcony, his back ramrod straight, a silhouette of pure tension as he dragged a hand through his hair. 10 minutes later, he walked back in the weight of the world etched onto his face. Is everything all right? She ventured. It's an event, he said, sounding distracted. A work thing. I have to go. He looked at her, then an impulsive idea flashing in his eyes. Come with me. What? She breathed. Be my date, he insisted, moving to sit on the edge of the bed, his gaze intense. I know it's not our arrangement, but please, I need you there. I want you on my arm. I want them all to see. His voice faltered. See what? She asked softly. How incredibly lucky I am. Every rational part of her screamed to refuse to keep the lines of their bizarre relationship from blurring any further. But the raw vulnerability in his eyes shattered her defenses. When is it? She heard herself say. Tomorrow evening. It's a formal affair. I have nothing appropriate for a formal event, she protested. Don't worry about a thing, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Please just let me handle it. The following morning, with Bryce safely out of the apartment, a courier delivered a garment bag from a boutique so exclusive she'd only ever dared to press her face against its glass displays. She unzipped the bag to reveal a gown of sky blue silk that cascaded like liquid light, featuring a neckline that was both impossibly elegant and utterly lethal. Tucked inside the box was a simple card. For the woman with eyes the color of the sky when she laughs. Until tonight. She slipped it on. The fit was flawless, as if it were a second skin. The realization hit her he must have committed her body to memory. The intimacy of it left her feeling both treasured and dangerously seen. And it was in that state of vulnerability that Bryce found her, his eyes locking on the magnificent dress spread across their bed. What the hell is that? He demanded. I have a charity event tonight. His gaze sharpened to a razor's edge. With who? A friend, she said, her voice steady. He took a step closer. Nia. Don't, she warned. You were the one who wanted this. You don't get to play the jealous husband now. This is not the same, he shot back. Oh, really? How? Because this? He snarled, gesturing wildly at the silk confection on the bed. This is you throwing it in my face. I have no idea what you're talking about, she replied coolly. I'm just living the life you designed for us. Who is this guy? He pressed. Why should that matter to you? It damn well matters, he exploded. My wife is about to be seen all over town with some what, Bryce? Someone who genuinely desires me? Someone who reminds me that I'm not worthless. The blood rushed to Bryce's face. I want you, he choked out. No, she said, her voice cold as ice. You want a possession. You want me waiting at home, grateful for scraps, while you live your life. That isn't love, Bryce. It's over. I'm leaving you. The sentence escaped her lips before the thought had fully formed, but the moment it hit the air, she recognized it as the absolute truth. I'm filing for divorce. You wouldn't dare. Watch me, she said, her voice unwavering. In fact, I've already spoken with an attorney. It wasn't true, but it would be. In his stunned silence, she watched the power dynamic between them crumble, saw the precise instant he understood he'd already lost her. Anger, denial, and a flicker of what looked like regret warred across his features. Fine, he finally spat out, his voice brittle. But you'll leave with nothing. The apartment, the money, it's all mine. You can keep your money, she said. All I want is my freedom. With that, she gathered the silken dress and retreated to the bathroom, the click of the lock echoing her final decision. A tremor ran through her hands, but her heart felt weightless for the first time in years. This was real. She was free. Punctually at 7 o'clock, the car Julian had arranged arrived. And when she walked out of the building there, he was leaning casually against a sleek black sedan, looking so devastatingly handsome in a tuxedo it literally stole her breath. The moment his eyes landed on her, he breathed out a single word, wow. He stepped forward, taking her in. You're divine, absolutely breathtaking. He leaned in to kiss her, a soft, careful press of his lips against hers before guiding her into the back of the car. As the city lights streamed past the window, he laced his fingers through hers. There's something you need to know, he said, his tone turning serious before we arrive. He took a deep breath. Okay, so this event, it's the annual charity gala for the Seattle Art Museum. It's a very big deal, extremely high profile, which means there are going to be a lot of people there who, well, they know me. Her stomach tightened. Know you as what? He met her gaze, his own full of apprehension. Not as Julian the Escort. Then who are you? I'm Julian Cross. I'm a tech CEO, a venture capitalist. He scanned her features, waiting for the final word to land. A billionaire. The word just hung there, a poison in the air. What? Her whisper was barely audible. I'm not for hire, Naya. I never have been. There was a misunderstanding the night we met. A total mix-up. I was supposed to be in a meeting at that hotel. Then I saw you just sitting there, and he dragged a hand through his hair, frustrated. I went to the concierge, asked him who you were expecting. He made a mistake. He thought I was your appointment, and I just let him. You looked so lost, so incredibly beautiful, and I just had to. He trailed off. I wanted a chance to know you, the real you, with none of this baggage attached. She snatched her hand back as if burned. So this whole time, it's all been a lie. Not about the things that actually matter. Not about how I feel about you or how you feel about me. Julian, her voice hitched, I thought. I was your client. I thought this was a transaction. It was never that. Not for me. It wasn't. But you let me believe it was. She covered her face with her hands, mortified. Oh God, the things I told you. I let my guard down with you. I thought I was safe. I know. And I am so sorry, Nia. You have no idea how sorry I am. I know I should have told you from the beginning. His voice broke. I was terrified you would start to see me differently, that you'd only see the money and not me. So you just lied. Yes, her gaze fixed on the passing city lights, her thoughts a chaotic storm. Julian Cross. Of course she knew the name. The entire city of Seattle knew it. He was a titan, a cover story for Forbes, a philanthropist who'd donated millions. He was a legend. Stop the car, she said, her voice flat. Naya, I mean it. Stop this car right now or I swear I will throw myself out of it. Make a choice. We're almost at the museum. Please just give me 1 hour inside. Let me explain properly. Explain just how wealthy and powerful you really are. Number. Let me prove to you that I'm the same man you've spent the last month getting to know. Let me prove that what we have, he gestured from her to him, that this is real. The limousine glided to a stop in front of the museum's grand entrance. A wall of photographers stood flashing their cameras along a red carpet. I can't do this, she breathed, a wave of panic crashing over her. I can't go in there. Yes, you can. You are the strongest woman I have ever met, Naya. Please just trust me one last time. Just trust me. Her eyes met his. Here was the man who had resurrected her senses, who had also deceived her for an entire month. And he was looking at her as if she was the center of his universe. The door swung open, held by a uniformed valet. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, she emerged from the car. The sudden explosion of camera flashes was blinding. In a heartbeat, Julian was at her side, his hand firm on the small of her back, steering her through the storm. She could hear the shouts, his name questions about her, but he paid them no mind, navigating her effortlessly through the frenzy and into the sanctuary of the museum. The scene inside was even more dizzying. It was a sea of tuxedos and gowns glittering with diamonds. Every major player in Seattle society was there, and every single one of them was staring right at her. Julian, a man in his 50s, boomed, approaching with an outstretched hand. "Good to finally see you. And who is this stunning vision?" "This," Julian announced, his arm wrapping possessively around her waist, "is Nia. Nia, I'd like you to meet Robert Hills. He's a member of the museum's board." "An absolute pleasure," Robert replied, though his gaze was sharp and intensely curious. A stream of people descended on them. Julian made the introductions, his hand a permanent fixture on her, while she forced a smile and murmured pleasantries as a silent scream echoed in her head. And then she saw Bryce. He stood clear across the grand hall, clad in a tuxedo she didn't recognize, deep in conversation with a circle of older, powerful-looking men. This had to be the event he'd mentioned. The one he claimed was critical for his job. The one he'd specifically uninvited her from, insisting it was business only. And yet, here they both were. Just then, Bryce turned, and his eyes locked with hers across the crowded space. She saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes. She saw his gaze sweep over her gown, then to Julian's arm wrapped tightly around her, and finally to the curious stares they were attracting. His complexion went from ashen to a deep blotchy red. He began moving towards them, a predator stalking his prey. "Julian," she whispered, a note of warning in her voice. "I see him." Bryce arrived, his face a carefully constructed mask of professional friendliness. "Mr. Cross, this is quite an honor. My name is Bryce Hamilton from Mercer Investment Group. We've been trying to get a meeting with you for months." "I'm well aware of who you are," Julian replied, his tone dismissive. Bryce faltered for a second before his gaze darted to Nia. "I had no idea you were acquainted with my wife." The heavy, possessive stress on that last word made Julian's jaw clench. "Oh, your wife and I have gotten to know each other very well," Julian responded, his voice smooth as silk, but his eyes as hard as diamonds. "Haven't we?" Darling, Nia was frozen, unable to form a single word. It felt like watching a catastrophic wreck unfold in agonizing slow motion. A storm of emotions warred across Bryce's face. He looked from Julian to her and back again, and she saw the precise instant the horrifying truth clicked into place for him. "You," he breathed, his voice a low hiss directed at Nia. "He's the one. This is the man you've been—" Seeing Julian supplied helpfully. "Yes, for the better part of a month now. She's a remarkable woman, your wife. I must admit I'm shocked a man like you would let her wander. If she belonged to me—" He let the words hang in the air with deliberate weight. "I would ensure she never had a single reason to seek companionship elsewhere." Bryce's hands balled into tight, white-knuckled fists. "Now you hold on a damn minute. Is there some kind of problem here, Mr. Hamilton?" Julian interrupted, his voice dropping to an icy calm. "Because if you have something you feel you need to say, I strongly advise you to consider your next words with extreme care. This is a professional gathering. It would be a terrible shame if you were to cause a scene for yourself and for your firm." The threat veiled as it was landed with the force of a physical blow. The color drained from Bryce's face. He turned back to her. "Nia, this ends now," Julian declared, his voice cutting. "She's not going anywhere with you." He locked eyes with Bryce. "Nia is my wife, a fact you conveniently chose to ignore while you were sleeping with your secretary." The ambient chatter evaporated as heads swiveled in their direction. Bryce sputtered, "How dare you? How dare I?" Julian's voice dropped to a lethally soft pitch. "The real question is, how dare you treat a woman like Nia as if she were some disposable object? How dare you insult her intelligence by suggesting an open marriage simply because you were too much of a coward to admit you were already a cheat? And now, after years of grinding her down, you have the audacity to stand here and stake a claim on her." Nia's breath hitched in her throat. Those fragmented late-night confessions. He had listened. He remembered every painful detail. "You're twisting things," Bryce retorted, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," Julian countered. "I know she sacrificed her career so you could have yours. I know she dimmed her own light just so you could feel like you shined brighter. I know you proposed that insulting arrangement because, in your arrogance, you were convinced she'd never find someone else. And the rage you're feeling now, it's because she did. She found someone who actually treasures her." Julian took a deliberate step forward, suddenly eclipsing Bryce. You had a queen in your hands, and you treated her like a pawn. That failure is yours alone. Bryce, desperate now, pleaded Nia as he reached for her arm. Before he could make contact, Julian was there, a solid wall between them. I suggest you don't touch her, he warned, his voice dangerously low. This is madness, Bryce scoffed. Nia, for God's sake, tell him. Tell him what? Nia's voice, when it came, was surprisingly firm. That you were right all along, that I should just forget everything and come running back. Bryce seized on it. Yes, we can fix this, Nia. I know we can. This is what you wanted, isn't it? An open marriage. You got your wish. What's the problem now that I actually went through with it? Or, she gestured to Julian. Is it that he's everything you're not? A wave of rage and humiliation washed over Bryce's face. Do you honestly think he's into you? He spat. He's Julian Cross. He has supermodels lining up for a chance with him. You're a temporary amusement, a pity project. He'll get tired of you and... Say one more word, Julian interrupted, his voice a quiet storm, and I will financially ruin you. I will withdraw every last dollar of my investment from your firm. I will make it my personal mission to ensure you never close another deal in this city again. I swear I will. Julian, stop, Nia commanded, her voice finally cutting through. She turned her gaze on Bryce. You were right about one thing, though. He is Julian Cross, and I didn't know because he lied to me from the start. He made me believe he was someone else, and Her voice cracked under the weight of it. I trusted him. The word was a dagger, and she saw it hit its mark as Julian flinched. So it turns out you're both liars. Each of you manipulated me to get what you wanted, and I am through with it. I'm through with both of you. She turned her back on them, her heels clicking in angry rhythm on the polished floor. Nia, Julian's voice echoed behind her, but she didn't slow down. She couldn't. She pushed through the doors into the night air just as the first tears escaped. The valet attendant approached, asking about her car, but she just numbly shook her head and kept walking, moving blindly down the street, away from the chaos, away from the lies. How could she have been so blind, so completely monumentally stupid? She was nearly 3 blocks away when she heard his footsteps pounding the pavement behind her. Nia, please. She refused to turn. Just go away, Julian. I can't. Don't lie. You're an expert at getting exactly what you want. He caught up, moving to plant himself directly in her path. His hair was a mess, his bow tie was hanging loose. He looked utterly broken. I'm sorry, he breathed. Nia, I am so sorry. Everything you said in there was right. I lied. I should have told you who I was from the very beginning. So why didn't you? Because, he said, his voice raw with desperation. People like you aren't real in my world. Everyone I meet wants a piece of me, a donation, an investment, a connection. No one ever sees me. They just see my net worth. But you saw the man, not the money, and I was so damn selfish. I couldn't stand the thought of losing that, of ruining the one real thing I'd found. So you let me believe I was employing you. You let me stress about whether I could even pay you. I know, he conceded, the shame evident in his voice. I know, and it was unforgivable. But Nia, everything else, everything that mattered, it was all true. How I feel about you, that wasn't an act. None of it was. How can I possibly know that? She shot back. Your entire relationship with me has been based on a character you invented. No. He reached for her, but she flinched away, and his hand dropped uselessly to his side. The only role I was playing was the one I was trapped in before I met you. My life is a constant stage. It's an endless parade of boardrooms and conference calls, of feigning interest in profit margins, when all I've wanted to do is... He cut himself off. Remember when you asked why I collect art? It's because it was the only honest thing I had until you. You are the most real thing that has ever been in my life. A sob caught in her throat, sharp and painful. You should have trusted me with the truth, she whispered. I know. I was falling in love with you. And I don't even know if that man is real. He is, Julian insisted fiercely. I swear to you, Nia, he is. That's who I really am. He took a breath. I love you. He said, the words rushing out with an urgent clarity. I am completely and utterly in love with you, Nia. The tears she'd been fighting were now streaming down her face. Nia, I know I completely ruined this. I know I have no right to ask for another chance, but I am begging you. Please just let me prove that what we have is worth saving. A part of her screamed to say yes. Oh, how desperately she wanted to believe him. But the sting of betrayal was too sharp, the wound too deep. I can't, she choked out. Not right now. His face fell, but he simply nodded. Okay. Bryce, don't. Don't you dare follow me, please. Just let me go. She moved past him without a second glance, and this time he let her. When she reached the corner of the block, she finally risked a look over her shoulder. He was a statue on the sidewalk just watching her go. Even from half a block away, the ruin on his face was unmistakable. She forced herself to turn away, putting one foot in front of the other. For 3 solid days, Naya went dark at her best friend May's place. She spoke to no one, silencing her phone after the 100th unanswered call from both Bryce and Julian. May, bless her, never pushed. She just kept a fresh mug of tea in Nia's hands, let the silence hang when it needed to, and always seemed to have a box of tissues ready for the next wave of tears. Then on the 4th day, a knock echoed through the apartment. It was Bryce. You shouldn't be here, May said, blocking the doorway with her body arms folded across her chest. I have to see my wife. Your wife has zero interest in seeing you. Bryce tried to peer around her. Naya, please, just give me 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. A figure emerged from the shadows of the hallway, Naya swallowed by an old college sweatshirt of May's, her hair thrown into a haphazard bun. Every ounce of her energy seemed to have been drained away. What do you want, Bryce? Her voice was hollow. I came to apologize. Can we please talk alone? May shot a questioning look at Naya, who gave a nearly imperceptible weary nod. Shooting Bryce a look that could curdle milk, May moved out of his way. The two of them ended up in May's cramped living room, the silence between them thick and suffocating. They sat on opposite ends of the lumpy couch. In his perfectly tailored suit, Bryce looked like an alien who had crash-landed among the thrift store furniture and precarious stacks of books. I was wrong, he began, the words sounding rehearsed. About all of it. The whole open marriage idea. Everything I said to you. You cheated on me. It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement of fact. I know, he faltered. And I am so sorry. I think I just got swept up in, I don't know, the vanity of it all. Jessica was just always around, always building me up. And you just, I what? She cut in. You stopped looking at me like I was the center of the universe. You checked out. You didn't care about my work anymore, about what I was accomplishing. Because, Naya said, her voice chillingly level, you explicitly told me not to. You told me I was too much, that you couldn't breathe. So I made myself smaller. I went silent. I gave you the very distance you begged me for. I know, God, I know. My head was a complete mess. I didn't know which way was up. But now everything is so clear. It's you. What if we started over? I mean, really give it a chance. I will break things off with Jessica tonight. We can find a therapist, whatever it takes. Just tell me, Bryce, do you still love me? The only answer he could manage was a slow, deliberate blink. Of course I love you. The answer was too quick, too reflexive. Then tell me why you only decided you wanted me back the second Julian entered the picture. Where was this fight when I found you with her? Where was it when I packed my bags and told you it was over? He looked down. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. You thought I had no other options, she said, her voice gaining a dangerous edge. You were sure I'd come crawling back to you within a week. But I didn't. And then I appeared with someone who has real power, real success, and suddenly I'm worth the effort. She slowly shook her head. That isn't love, Bryce. That's just your ego. That's not fair. Oh, it's the fairest thing I've said all day. She reached into the oversized pocket of her sweatshirt and pulled out a crisp white envelope. I had my lawyer draw these up yesterday. His eyes locked onto the envelope as if it were a venomous snake. Are those divorce papers? Yes. Nia, come on. You're not in your right mind. You're just hurt because that billionaire played you. You're confused. Actually, she said, a strange calm washing over her, I don't think I've ever seen things more clearly. Just sign them. Absolutely not. I'm not signing a thing. We made vows, Naya. Yes, and you shattered them. I'm just sweeping up the pieces. You're willing to throw away 3 years of our lives for what exactly? For some guy who fed you a line of bull, who wasn't even man enough to tell you who he really was. No, Bryce, I'm ending a marriage that's been a corpse for a long, long time. We both know it, and this has absolutely nothing to do with Julian. I don't believe you. Frankly, I couldn't care less what you believe anymore. She got to her feet, towering over him on the couch. Sign the papers. Don't drag this out and make it any uglier than it already is. Because if you don't, my lawyer will be in contact with yours. But make no mistake, one way or another, we are finished. And with that, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving him staring at the envelope in his hands. A few minutes later, she heard the front door click shut behind him. May reappeared almost instantly, a bottle of wine and 2 glasses in hand. I am so proud of you, she said softly. I feel like my whole world is collapsing. I know, sweetie, but for the first time in a long time, it's collapsing in the right direction. For another 7 days, Naya's phone remained a dark, silent rectangle. She found a shoebox-sized studio in Fremont she could just barely swing, started slinging lattes to cover the rent, and made a conscious daily effort to erase Julian from her mind. It was a spectacular failure. He was everywhere. He was in the couple who split a croissant at her coffee shop, their fingers brushing. He was in the way a man looked at his girlfriend as if she were the most fascinating creature on earth. He was in the art gallery she had to pass every day on her way home. He was even in the stupid rom-com May forced her to watch, and when the hero made his grand foolish gesture, Nia sobbed so hard she felt the beginnings of a migraine. You need to call him, May said flatly on day 9. He lied to me, May. Yes, he did. But, and I'm just being honest here, the man also looks at you like the entire world fades away. I've seen the gala photos, sweetie. That man is utterly shattered without you. Good, Nia snapped. He deserves it. Does he? Because you look in the mirror lately? You're a wreck too. I'm not saying you have to forgive him tomorrow, but maybe you should at least hear what he has to say. He had a whole month to say something. He chose not to. And you had a husband you stayed with for God knows how long after he stopped being in love with you. Nia visibly flinched. Is that really so different? Or is it that you're just terrified that if you actually let yourself be happy with Julian, that'll get ripped away from you too? Maypar, Nia started, her voice soft. I love you, you know that. I know. But punishing yourself for his mistake isn't a solution. It's just a recipe for making 2 people miserable instead of 1. Nia didn't make the call, but later that night she finally powered her phone back on. The screen lit up with 63 missed calls and 40 unread texts. As she scrolled through the messages, a deep, familiar ache settled in her chest. Julian's first few messages were apologies pure and simple, but then their tone began to shift. I'm not going to keep bothering you. I just need you to understand that every word I said was real. I found myself at the Rothko exhibit today. I thought about you the entire time. That little coffee shop you love on Pine was slammed this morning. I took your usual seat by the window. It almost felt like you were there. I miss you. That's it. I just miss you. After day 5, the text went silent. She tried to convince herself it was a relief. Then on the 12th day, a knock echoed on her studio door at 9 in the evening. She swung it open, assuming it was May. It wasn't. Julian was standing in the hallway looking as though sleep had abandoned him a week ago. His hair was a chaotic mess. A dark stubble shadowed his jaw, and he was in jeans and a creased shirt she'd never laid eyes on. He looked painfully, achingly human. How did you find this place? She breathed. I had to hire someone, which sounds incredibly creepy, I'm aware, but I was running out of options. Naya, I'm not here to corner you or to feed you more excuses. I had to see for myself that you were okay. I'm fine. His eyes swept over her frayed sweater, May, the cramped apartment behind her, the dark circles beneath her eyes. You're an awful liar. Takes one to know one. He visibly flinched at that. Fair enough. They just stood there. The silence between them was a chasm. I miss you, he finally choked out. I know I have no right to. I know I'm the sole reason you're standing in this hallway instead of... He trailed off, unable to finish. I needed you to hear it from me. I heard you. In your texts, you read them, every single one. A faint glimmer of hope sparked in his exhausted eyes. And I have no idea what to do with them. With any of this. You made me feel things I never thought were possible for me. And then I shattered your trust. I know. He dragged a hand through his already messy hair. You were always more than enough. Naya, you were my everything. That's why I was so damn scared to tell you who I was. Because when people, especially women, find out I stopped being a man, I become a bank account, a business opportunity. But you looked right past all of that and you just saw Me. His voice fractured. I couldn't stand the thought of that ever changing. So you lied. So I lied. And I will carry the weight of that mistake for the rest of my days. But Naya, everything else, all of it was true. What I feel for you, that is the most real thing in my life. The happiest moment of my entire life was in my kitchen, making you that god-awful coffee and watching you struggle to pretend you liked it. The best conversation I've ever had was with you at 3 in the morning, just talking about art and our hidden dreams and everything we were too terrified to admit we wanted. I, he sucked in a ragged breath. I love you. And I know saying that doesn't fix a damn thing I broke, but it's the truth. Tears were now carving silent paths down her cheeks. You destroyed me. I know. And if you tell me to leave and never come back, I'll do it. I'll understand, but I had to try. Just once more. I had to make sure you knew that it was you, Naya. Not your looks, not your body, not what I could get from you. It was you. Your brilliant mind, your fierce heart, the incredible way you see the world. That's what I fell for. That's what I can't seem to fall out of love with. Naya, I moved some assets around. I established a fund for emerging female artists, specifically for those whose work has been ignored or completely erased by the mainstream galleries. It's called the Invisible Women Initiative. She could only stare at him speechless. What? You told me about that exhibition you've always dreamed of putting together. I can't curate it. I don't have your vision, your knowledge, but I can damn well make sure it gets funded. I can give it a fighting chance. He retrieved a folder from his bag. I've already had a preliminary talk with Sam. They're very interested in hosting it, but they said it would need a curator. Someone with a unique vision who truly understands the mission. He offered her the folder. Her hands trembled as she took it. Inside were official letters, draft contracts, a proposed budget so large it made the room spin. Julian, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's yours, regardless of whether you ever forgive me. Whether you decide to ever lay eyes on me again, this belongs to you. Because you deserve to have your dreams realized. Because the world needs to see what you're capable of. I can't take this from you. It's not a handout. It's an investment. In art, in progress, in... He took a step closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. In the most remarkable woman I have ever known. She was openly sobbing now, overwhelmed. This doesn't just erase everything. I know it doesn't. I'm still so angry with you. You have every right to be. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Then let me earn it back. He moved slowly, deliberately, raising his hand to gently brush a tear from her cheek with his thumb. Let me spend every single day from now on proving to you that I'm worth a second look. That whatever this is between us is worth fighting for. What happens when you get tired of trying? Stop. Don't you ever say that. His tone was fierce. You are not some consolation prize, Nia. You are the whole damn lottery. You are the one thing I wasn't even smart enough to look for, and then I found you. And I will dedicate the rest of my life to making sure you never ever question that. You can't promise something like that. Just watch me. His hands came up to frame her face, his touch gentle but firm. I am all in, Naya. Completely foolishly, recklessly in love with you. And if it takes me a year or 10 years to prove that to you, then that's what I'll do. Because you're my end game. There's no one else after you. He paused. I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm just asking you not to close the door completely. Just think about giving me one more chance, a real one. No more secrets, no more lies, just you and me figuring it all out. Together. Her gaze lifted to his in the sheer desperation warring with love, and a flicker of hope she found there made the wall around her heart crumble. All right, she breathed the word barely audible. One more chance. But Julian, if you ever lie to me again, if you hide a single thing or try to play me, I swear I am done. I won't. I swear on my life. From this moment on, you get complete transparency. You ask where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm seeing, and I will give you the truth. You want to see my calendar, my phone, my entire life. It's an open book. I don't want to be your warden, Julian. I just need honesty. Then honesty is what you'll get. He drew her into his embrace, and this time she didn't pull away. She let herself melt into him, feeling safe for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for giving me this. Don't you dare make me regret it. I won't, I promise. He pressed soft kisses to her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose, before finally claiming her mouth. It was a gentle, sweet kiss that tasted of the salt from her tears and felt impossibly like coming home. Come back to my place, he murmured against her lips. Let me take care of you. I have work in the morning. Call in sick. Please, Julian. I just, I need you close. I'll sleep on the couch, or the other side of the bed, whatever you want. His voice dropped thick with emotion. I just can't let you walk away again. Not tonight. She simply nodded against the fabric of his shirt. Okay. They went back to his apartment, and she was struck by a pang of longing for a space she hadn't let herself admit she missed. He fixed her tea, drew her a hot bath, and left out one of his own button-down shirts for her to sleep in. When she stepped out of the bathroom, he was perched on the edge of the mattress, looking anxious. I was serious about the couch, you know, he said. Don't be ridiculous. She slipped beneath the covers, and he followed, keeping a careful distance, until she closed the gap, curling against his warmth. His arms instantly came around her, holding her securely. She fell into a deep sleep, lulled by the steady, reassuring rhythm of his heart beating beneath her ear. In the morning, he made her coffee, and it was significantly better this time. He had clearly been practicing. They sat together on his balcony, watching the city stir to life, as she asked him everything about his company, his family, his world before her. He answered every question without a trace of hesitation. My turn, he said gently when she finally fell silent. What do you need from me to feel secure in this? Time, she said immediately. And patience. I'm not going to stop being terrified overnight. I can do time. He cleared his throat. I can do patience. What else? Meet your friends. Let me see your real world. Not the billionaire side of it, but your actual life, the people you hold dear. Done. I should warn you, my mother is going to absolutely adore you. You have a mom? He laughed at that. What did you think I was assembled in a laboratory? I don't know. Rich people are strange. That we are, he agreed, taking her hand. Anything else? Don't give up on me, especially when I'm being difficult or when I get scared and try to push you away. Never. You're stuck with me now. A small smile touched her lips. They took things one day at a time. He wooed her properly. There were dinners and trips to museums and long, aimless walks through the city. He introduced her to his mother, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes who took one look at them and offered a knowing smile. He came to her cramped studio, sat on her beat-up futon eating takeout from a box, and never once made her feel like she was anything less than everything. 3 months later, he took her back to the Seattle Art Museum for the opening night of Invisible Women. She had curated the entire exhibit herself, pouring her blood, sweat, and tears into selecting the pieces, writing the narratives, and arranging the gallery. It was more than a dream come true. It was a masterpiece. Julian remained at her side while guests drifted past, and as he heard her speak with such passion about every painting, every artist, his expression was one of absolute awe. You built all of this? He murmured, his voice thick with emotion. We did, she corrected softly. Don't you dare, he countered, shaking his head. My part was easy. I signed a piece of paper. You breathed life into every inch of Sister Place. This is all yours. At the end of the night, when the last of the guests had gone, and they were alone in the vast, silent gallery, he led her to the center of the room. I have something I need to ask you, he said, his voice suddenly serious. Okay. Then he went down on one knee and her breath caught in her throat. Nia, I know it's only been a few months since we started again for real. And I know people will say this is crazy, that it's too soon, but I have never been more certain of anything in my entire life. He opened a small box to reveal a simple, elegant band with a single perfect diamond. I love you. I love your brilliant mind, your relentless passion, and the way you see the profound beauty in things everyone else overlooks. I love that you challenge me, that you ground me, that you inspire me to be a better man. His voice cracked. I love absolutely everything about you, and I want to spend every day for the rest of my life proving it to you. Will you marry me? The tears were back, but this time they were tears of pure joy. Yes, yes, of course, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, then rose to his feet, sweeping her into his arms and spinning her around. Her laughter echoed in the empty hall as he kissed her, a deep, thorough kiss full of promises. I'm going to make you so happy, he vowed against her mouth. You already do. They were married 4 months later in a small private ceremony on the coast with just family and their closest friends. May was her maid of honor, and Julian's mother cried through the entire service. Bryce was conspicuously absent. Their divorce had been finalized weeks earlier. When Julian recited his vows, his voice was strong and sure. Nia, you came into my life when I had forgotten what it even felt like to be real. You saw past every wall I ever built, and you loved me anyway, model. You are my sanctuary, my wildest journey, my one true home. And I swear to you, the days of deception are over. From this moment on, I will always choose you. I will celebrate our love openly and without reservation for all of my life. You are and will forever be the single greatest thing that has ever happened to me. Her own promises were a choked whisper, lost between sobs. And now, 35,000 feet in the air, his private jet was carving a path toward Bali, toward 2 weeks of sun seclusion and nothing but each other. Nia was nestled into Julian's side, her head resting on his shoulder. Every small movement of her hand sent a flash of light from the new ring on her finger. "Are you happy?" he murmured, his lips brushing her temple. Ecstatic. "Good, because I have a whole agenda planned for you the moment we touch down." "Oh, you do? Meticulous plans. Let's just say they start with that tiny bikini I saw you pack and end with nothing at all." A soft laugh escaped her as she angled her head up to meet his lips. "I love you. I love you more," he answered. "Impossible," Nia challenged. "Is that a dare?" He sealed the challenge with a proper kiss, slow and impossibly deep, and she melted into it. Into him. Into the breathtaking, unbelievable life they were forging from the ashes of their past. She'd stormed into that hotel bar, a shattered, vengeful woman on a mission to prove a point. She'd walked out with the one thing she never even knew her soul was crying out for. "Nia," Julian whispered, pulling back just enough to see her eyes. "Thank you." "For what?" "For letting me earn a second chance. For trusting me with your heart." He cupped her face, his touch infinitely tender. "For just being you. I know I don't deserve you, but I swear I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man who does." "You deserve every good thing," she said softly. "You deserve to be loved for the man you are not, for the empire you built. I finally see that. You're the one who taught me." She settled back against his chest, watching the sea of clouds drift by his hand, tracing lazy circles on her arm. "So where to after Bali?" he asked. "I don't know, maybe everywhere, maybe nowhere. As long as I'm with you. It doesn't matter, we could finally go to the MoMA, see your Rothko in person." "Our Rothko," he corrected. She could feel his smile against her hair. "Yeah, our Rothko." The jet sliced through the endless blue, hurtling them toward a future that was finally unequivocally theirs. The lies were done. The hiding was over. There was only this two souls who found their anchor in the storm and refused to let go. And they would hold on fiercely and forever. The end. Thank you for joining us on Nia and Julian's incredible journey. So I have to know, what was the one moment that completely captured you? Was it when Julian told Nia to inform her husband that she'd been with a real man? Or that fiery confrontation at the museum gala when he put everyone in their place for her? Or maybe it was that breathtaking proposal right there in the gallery she poured her heart into. Let me know your favorite part in the comments. I promise we're reading every single one, sending you all so much love.